Okay, yesterday we released 8.8 of Dynamicweb, which is a relatively small release compared to other minor releases we made, but still contains some major new features. Feel free to ask questions during the session, and I'll remember to check my question pane occasionally. First of all, your release lines. So let's get to the presentation of it all. We'll start with the new features in e-commerce, where most of the new features is available. First of all, Dynamicweb 8.8 introduces a new integration to a product called Raptor. And Raptor is a recommendation engine, what we call a product recommendation engine that can be implemented on e-commerce websites and used to recommend products or relate products to the products that you're looking at. We can do that in Dynamicweb already today using related products and smart searches and so on. And last year we also introduced our own recommendation engine based on something called Mahout. And Raptor is basically a replacement for that recommendation engine. And this company, Raptor, they run this recommendation engine as a software as a service, and they have a lot of knowledge on how these recommendation works. And what this basically does is you install this Raptor recommendation engine in Dynamicweb. It's part of the integration framework, just something you turn on your website. And what happens is that all the behavior of your users on your website, what they buy and what they see and what they add to cart and so on, we send that information back to the Raptor engine, which collects all of this information, and then they run some statistical analysis on top of all the data we send in. And based on that, we can make recommendations in your solution instead of being based on something that you as an editor need to put in. It's based on the statistical analysis done on the Raptor engine. And currently this integration can do 7 different types of recommendations. So you can do recommendations when I'm standing on a specific product, or if I want a recommendation for that specific user, for example on a front page. It could also be recommendations on product list or in the checkout flow or stuff like that. And so you basically get 7 new loops in your templates that you can add to the to your templates in product detail views or in checkout flows and so on to render the information in this one. And I have a question about the price on the Raptor model. This is where I come a bit short. It's a monthly fee that you pay on this one, and if you send an email to the email address here and ask for it, sales will give you the price list on this one. Currently we are looking for some customers that are willing to go into a test on this one, and for those customers there will be some benefits in the beginning. I also need to address that this is not recommended for small solutions, and that's because the amount of traffic that you have on your website has to be relatively high before this recommendation engine will do something that makes sense out of it. So you need a lot of traffic in order to gain some better recommendations out of this engine in compared to other things. And that's because it needs enough data to be statistical. I have a question asking if it's only available for solutions that have integration framework, and no, it's available for all e-commerce solutions. It's just distributed the same way as the integration framework. And another question is if it affects performance. We collect the data and we do that asynchronously, and that doesn't affect performance. And the new when you need to display the information, there is a slight performance degrade because we need to communicate with the external server. And there are 2 ways to display the recommendations, and one is doing it with regular template tags, and that means we have to wait for the response when we render the product viewing, and that would affect performance. Another implementation possibility is loading the recommendation asynchronously, and then you don't get the same lag because it's done in the browser instead. And the old recommendation engine, is it still available? And yes, it is. So no changes, nothing is taken out. This is just a new engine that is going to replace what we call recommendation, but not going to replace related product and related searches and stuff like that. Going on to the next new feature in e-commerce in 8.8 is back in stock notification. It has been a wish for some time now, and now we introduce it, and it requires email marketing to be used. And I'm basically going to show you what this is all about. You can use this feature for making your users sign up if any of your products is out of stock. Instead of just removing the add to cart button, you can display a form where you ask for the user's email address, and when this product is back on stock, you can set up an email marketing mail flow that will send out a message to the user when the product is back in stock again, and will send out a mail with a link and information about that product. Going back one. So I'm just basically going to show you how this works, if I can get out of this. I have an implementation here for my website, and I have just a regular product catalog as you know it, and I have products that are in stock and some products that are out of stock, and I have prepared something here. I have a saddle which is out of stock right here. I can still add this to cart, which is of course an implementation thing. This one doesn't necessarily need to be here if you don't want customers to order something that is not in stock. The new thing is I can register myself here to get a notification when this product is back in stock. So if I insert my email address and write create notification, I get an information about the notification is registered. I also did this earlier on this one, so I get information I'm already registered on this one. Of course, this doesn't require login. As you can see, I'm not logged in on this one. I can just sign up on my email, and we store this on the session to make sure that you don't sign up twice. So that's the front-end implementation part of it. It's relatively simple. It's just a small form where you can submit the user into to this recommendation thing. If we switch to the administration in e-commerce, we have a new node in the product catalog in here called notifications in here, and in here I would have a list of all the notifications that are currently active, and that means I can see myself. I've been created twice here for two different products. I can see I don't have a sent date, meaning that nothing has been sent out for these one. I can also go in and see what was previously sent and to whom in this list, or I can show all of them, and now I have a sent date on all of this. And what happens is we have an email flow in email marketing, and it will look through the products that we have here and see if any of them is on the is back on stock, and if it is, we're going to send out an email to that user, and we're going to remove or set it as sent to that user. Can you delete your notifications from the front end? I don't know if there's a tag for that one, but you can. If you get an email from this system, you can unsubscribe for the rest of it. And you ask if it works for Orion's specific colors and sizes, and yes, it does. It also works for specific sizes and products. So a product has a combined key that is the product ID and the variant ID and the language ID, and that is also lying on this one. So you can diversify it on these things. And does it look for product number or product ID? It looks for the product ID when you submit it. If you take a look at the front end, at this point, I have technically inside here, I have a form that has the three IDs that is part of the key for the product, which is product ID, and I have variant ID, and I have language ID, and those are the three things that we need to register on this one. Going into email marketing. Next question, how is flow in email marketing set up? Let's take a look at that one. I have an email in here saying back in stock notification. This is a recurring email, as we can say. And I set up a schedule for how often I want to do this. This is set up to do this every 5 minutes. If you know you synchronize stock status every once a day, you could put this to run in the middle of the night. But what I do here is on the recipient provider, I have a new type in here called back in stock recipients, which basically takes a look at the list that we have we have in the management center, and I choose from which website I want to look up the users. And this is the master website where I registered it all. So, and this one runs every 5 minutes, and this set up. And I just set up the email as I used to, and I have a page called Render Me, which is placed in my tree, and we're going to take a look at that. So basically, this is just a very simple email using the back in stock notification email provider. On my content pane on the Render Me, I have a regular page which should of course be an email template, and on that one I've added the product catalog, which has a new thing I can choose in here called products, which take a look at the context. And the context means that when we are sending out something in email marketing, we can use the context of that user to see something. So this could be a list of previously viewed product or previously bought products, or it can be products that I have back in stock notifications on. So this will give me if I've signed up for 2 products that come in stock in one time, I'll get a list of 2 products in this mail. So I have the paragraph and I have the product list in here, and this just renders an email, and that is what we send out to the users when the products go back in stock. So that's it for back in stock notification. Very powerful feature to make sure that you get your customers' attention back to the website once you have products back in stock. Then we have made some changes and updates to 2 of these payment gateways, actually 3 of them. But Dips and QuickPay, they now support saved credit cards and recurring orders. And saved credit card is the possibility of saving. When you check out, you can actually save the user's credit card on the Dynamicweb account. We store the actual credit card information in QuickPay and Dips and keep a token in the Dynamicweb side. And then you can make it like you know it from Amazon and eBay, that in the checkout flow, instead of going through a normal checkout handler where the user needs to find his credit card again and type in the information, you could store his credit card on his profile, and during the checkout you can make him select which card do you want to use for payment, and he just check out in one click and doesn't have to find his card or anything. So nice feature for e-commerce sites where you have returning customers, and it's also a necessity to use recurring orders if you have an order coming every once a month or so on, the feature you saw in 8.7. So this is what it's for. So made some changes in the product catalog, also been wanted a lot. You as an administrator gain some new control about on how you can which fields to display in the product catalog, and let's take a look at what we can do with this one. Inside the management center, where we have the setup of which fields that should be language managed and variant managed. Required is something that we've had since 8.7. I think so. That means that you can force the editor to fill out specific fields. And now we have 2 new columns in this screen, and that means you can say that some of these fields are read-only. That could be the product number, for example. If we know this field comes from an integration, and we don't want our editors to be able to change any of these fields. You can now set it as read-only so they can see what the field contains, but they cannot change it. Very relevant in integration flows. And also you can go in and say, I want to hide the fields, because these might be information that you've configured the product catalog to contain, because you're using it for searches or something else, but you don't want to mess it up in the user interface for the editor when they are editing the products, because the data is basically handled from an integration. So now you can hide it from the user interface, and you have the regular fields, but you also have the product category fields down here, so that you can lock and hide only. So now I've set something to read only, and I've removed sales tax group and active manufacturer from the product catalog. So right now I'm logged in as an administrator. That means I can still see every field in here. If I log in as a normal user, I'm not able to see, I think I have a user called NV. Let me try to log in as this user to see that we have less fields. Sorry about that. I can't remember my username, but I think you get the point. The fields, of course, would be the product number would be grayed out like this one, and the manufacturer and VAT group and active type would be hidden. You wouldn't be able to see it at all. And I have a question about if this can be separated at shop level. Currently it cannot. It has to be in one installation, has one configuration of this. But we are aware of the requirement of doing this on a shop level. But currently it's not part of the first version of the implementation. Going on, so a small change to the product, the customer center that we use for showing previous orders and so on. This is related a bit to a feature I'm going to show you a little later. But you basically have one new setting on here. You can see you retrieve the list based on the user ID, which is how it usually works, or on the customer number. And it's a small thing, but it has a big difference for how this works, because if you have a customer in a business-to-business, which is a company, and that company has more than one user that logs in and can order things, you're now able to give them a list of orders that this specific user made, which is how we usually work, but now you can also look up the orders based on the customer number. That means that two different users can see the same list of orders in the customer center, and they can see which orders was made by other users sharing the same customer number. And you can combine, of course, two instances of the customer center, so you can show all orders for my company for the users, and this user's specific own company, specific orders you can use for lookup in this one. And of course, this is primarily a business-to-business scenario, and also when we see it in integrated scenarios where you want to publish orders from your system and into Dynamicweb for history purposes. So a small feature, but it's very, very nice because a lot of business-to-business sites basically have this need. And another thing related to variants has been a wish for a long time. We changed the user interface in 8.7 to be more user-friendly in how we set up the variant groups and variant options. And you have at all times being able to set a name for a variant option, like you can see red, green, blue, and you could add some images to it that you could use to display some information. What we've added in 8.8 is the possibility of creating variant option properties, or basically custom fields on variant options. So this one, because I have defined a variant group called color, and it has some options in here, I might want to have the hex code for displaying in the front end instead of adding an image to this one. And I'm just going to show you how this works in the administration. In Management Center, in the e-commerce node, on the product catalog, under variants, I have these variant groups, and if I go into one of these, it has a new tab called Properties, and I can add properties to this one. Very simple. It has a name and a system name used for templates. Now I've added something called the color code or hex code that we can use, but it could also be whatever we need to render something in the front end, or it could be additional texts to the front end, or helping description, or whatever you want to register for the for use in the front end when you're rendering all of this. So when I have this and I render one of these options, I can add new information on this one. So these properties can be used for displaying things in the front end a bit more dynamically than you can do today, because you don't have to hardcode that much in the templates. The properties are available in the index for facets. And no, they're not, and I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense, because you have the name of this one, and everything that is red would also have this color code. But of course, yeah, you can render the facets, facet options. So let me see if I have something. I only think I have an ugly facets search with the, yeah. Right here I have my color shown, and I'm able to use these options right here, so I can display, instead of a checkbox or just the name, I could render a square with the color of the variant option, or an image with the wheel size, or logos with the manufacturer, or whatever I want to use these properties for. So that's the new thing around with this one. So some changes for the indexing engine. Two things. One of them is minor, requested a lot, and the other one is been asked for by a lot of people. First of all, you're able to add score as a sorting parameter. That's one thing, and now you're able to overrule parameters on every instance of the product catalog, and the same for sorting. You can override that on every instance of the product catalog. But let's take a look at that. Switching back to the administration, going into the repositories where I have a search set up. Very simple thing, basically. I have a query, and earlier I've been able to add sorting and use all the fields of this one. When I don't have a sort by down here, Dynamicweb or the Lucene index below this one will automatically sort this by relevance. But for some reason, and I can't quite cope why, a lot of you have asked about, I want to sort by name as the first parameter. Sorry, wrong one. Product name as the first thing. When I do this, I no longer sort anything in the index by score, but now I can add a new one, doing it wrong again, adding a sorting. I'm able to choose score as the second parameter. So the highest score would be the first one if we have several products with the same name coming up in the search. So very simple addition to the sorting, especially relevant for large indexes with hundreds of thousands of products in it. So that's a new option in the sorting information here. Then also where I use the search, this is where the big feature is. You can see the search we were looking at before. I'll just find it again. It has a number of parameters in here, and they don't have a value coming from the search itself. That means that all these values are empty, and if I use this query on all my websites, I think in all my instances of the product catalog, I would use the same result on all the pages. What I'm able to do now is I can overrule the default value. That would be the value I find here usually. on every instance of the product catalog. So if I want a specific group ID to be served here, I could write group 5. And I know you don't have a group selector here, and we don't have that because the indexing engine basically doesn't know anything about the product catalog. But that's a technical thing. Of course, we want the group selector to be here as well. So when I do this, I can use the same search on several instances of the product catalog and find products in group 5 and products in group 6, or I can find all the red products and so on. So I don't have to create a new instance of a search every time I need it with different values in the parameters. And someone writes, thank you, you're welcome. That's one thing. The other thing is the possibility of overruling how we are sorting this specific the sorting on this specific instance. So if I for some reason want to sort my product listing in some pages in a different way than specified on the search itself, I'm able to overrule how it works here. And can the index be created at shop level? I'm not sure I understand that, Adrian. I can search products from a specific shop by adding the shop ID to the search itself. And let's see, I can say the shop IDs needs to equal, and I do that using something called a macro, which always look at the context. That means right now when I have a one like this, if I'm using this search on a website that has one shop ID, that would be one value, and if I use it on another shop, this macro will return another value. So this is already depending on the context of the shop I'm looking at right now. So, but it will still index the entire product catalog, but you can use this to define what you're doing. So still you would only have one index, but you can have several searches, or you can use some of these contexts to limit your searches to products in a specific thing. So that's it for this feature. A small thing in the product selector, which you use a lot of places in Dynamicweb. You have the product showing up. If you have the same product in a lot of variants, and all those variants share the same name, it might be difficult to see which one it is. And now you can see the product number and stuff like that in the in product selector. That's one thing, and also everywhere you've chosen the product, you get the information about the product number as well. So it's just a minor usability thing, but also a wish coming from a lot of users that cannot see the difference between products because of this. That's it for e-commerce, the major e-commerce features. You can see the rest of the details on the release notes on developer side. Related to user management or the users in logging into the extranet module in the front end, we've created a new mode for impersonation. Until now, impersonation has worked in the way that you could place orders on behalf of other users, but when you impersonate that user, you would not inherit that user's prices, and you would not inherit that user's permission. And what you can do with 8.8 now in user management, you can set the impersonation mode to replace the current user with the impersonated user. And this means that me as an administrator or as an account owner, I can take any user I have under my supervision or in my impersonation and log in as them and act exactly like they see the things. So I inherit their permissions, their personalization features, their prices, and all the stuff that you would expect of a full impersonation. And then I can place orders based on this user, or I can use the customer center as we saw before and go in and see what is in the customer center for this specific user. You would see it even exactly like if you were logged in with your user. And when you're done, you're able to log off as that user, and you will be re-logged in as your own user when you do that. So that's what we call full impersonation or real impersonation. And again, something that's used for business-to-business scenarios, or if you have salespersons for your company going on the roads and making order on behalf of their customers, they can use this functionality to a sales agent solution. So we expect a lot out of this feature. The implementation is pretty much like you know it from today. You just need to switch the setting from the management center to get the feature up and running. In Forms for Editors, we've added the possibility of using HTML5 controls. So that means that you don't only get the good old control types, and you can see in this screen I have some of the new HTML5 controls rendered. So I can add date selectors and time selectors and email fields and so on, and ranges, and so I get some new things or new possibilities in here. The only problem with this one is it's not all browser that supports all the fields quite yet. So this is a screen dump from Chrome, which is the browser that supports most of these. But it can still be very good, because some of these validation things that runs on top of forms, they can rely quite a bit on these HTML5 controls. And let's just take a quick look at how it's implemented if we're switching into modules and Forms for Editors. I have a form here, and you can see up here, add field doesn't contain something called HTML5 or email or anything. But if I create a new field of regular type text, like this one, I can, on this screen, I can switch the type to any one of the HTML5 types. So it's, until now, for a while still hidden away, because it's probably more professional use than everyday editor use. But now you're able to use all of these things. And you can just change the type of some of the things on the fields that you have already. Especially this one, email, could be very useful to use. So that was it for forms. And going in to take a look at one feature we made for online marketing platform related to the email marketing. You know, email marketing today can use smart searches to search users of specific kinds, and what we have added in 8.8 is the possibility of using the new index for searching users. And this is going to be the future of expanding the smart searches for user management and for email marketing. And I'm just going to show you how this works. Again, we first take a look at the repositories where I've created in here an index that, instead of using a product index builder, uses a user index builder. And it uses all the infrastructure that we know from our product indexing and searching, and has a user schema extender that will basically just index all the information that we have on users and all the custom fields that we have on users. And now you can use also setting up a search or a query in here that can be used for two things. You can publish, of course, this query as a list of users, and you can do faceted search on your users like you can on products. The form, yeah, okay. And you can also use these searches that you define in here. You can use those in email marketing, and this is still a new thing for trial things. When I have an email like this, we have a new icon. This is the old smart searches, and this is the possibility of choosing my index-based searches in here. Right now, you cannot do more things with the new indexing than you can compare to the other one. To smart searches, because smart searches has more fields, But of course, all the things that smart searches can do will move into this one as well. And one of the smart thing about this one is you can extend what is actually on the index by using all the features in the index, or make some extensibility points in that one. And based on that, you can start adding a whole lot, a set of new features to smart searches and use those for email marketing that is worth using. So it's the beginning of a replacement for the underlying engine of the smart searches that we've started working on. Then I got a question from Mikael saying, did the form builder contain a radio button list going back? Forms for editors, let's have a look. I can create a radio button list. Yes, I can. Very simple. That was new in 8.6 when we released this one. So it both have a radio button list and a checkbox list. So, but it's not an HTML5, it's just a regular HTML. So that was last slides. I've no more things to show in the 8.8 release. As I said, it's on the developer area already, so you can download it. It's also available for installation on the service. If you want it on any of your solution, you can contact the service thing and have them add the solution or this version to your solutions. So questions? Per Søgaard is asking about QuickPay in Dynamicweb. Yes, what about it? We have QuickPay already, have had for a long time. Oh, mobile pay. Yes, we have mobile pay. We introduced mobile pay back in March with 8.6.1. Let's have a look. In Management Center under payment options in here, you can do one of two things. We have QuickPay and we have the new QuickPay payment window. And if you use the QuickPay payment window, which is QuickPay's new a payment platform that they launched in the spring, you can choose mobile pay or have it be part of the other thing. QuickPay doesn't support mobile pay out of the old checkout handler, so you need to use this one, which is also the new platform. But what you can do is you can combine, you can have a credit card or regular payment with the old payment window, and then you can add a new payment using the QuickPay payment window, and by just enabling mobile pay as the only payment option in that one. In that way, you get two different payment options in the checkout flow, and one of them would be Dankort and credit cards, and the other one would be mobile pay, and that would open two different quick pay windows. You can also just switch your entire account information in QuickPay to the new platform. You have to talk to their service desk about doing that. In the beginning it was kind of shaky, but I think the QuickPay platform, the new platform, is up and running and can do almost all the same things as the old one did. Also, if you're using the dips, you have mobile pay online also since 8.6.1 that you can add to the window in there. So those are your options for mobile pay in Dynamicweb. So as long as you have 8.6.1, it's not a problem. Any more questions?